Imagine waking up to a skyrocketing national GDP, while simultaneously the stock market craters and unemployment hits record highs. This is the infamous ghost GDP scenario. Output explodes because autonomous software agents have engineered the friction of human participation completely out of the economic system. When massive productivity gains are trapped entirely within private server farms, consumer purchasing power evaporates, triggering a severe liquidity crisis across global financial markets. Corporate management looks at human biology, our need to sleep, our finite cognitive load, our requirement for health insurance, as costly obstacles. To an automated ledger, human beings are simply friction that slows down capital. But modern economics ignores human neurology. Psychologically and biologically, we require that exact friction to survive. This guarantees a catastrophic collision between the relentless optimization of an algorithm and the fragile necessities of the human organism. In the labor market, this collision appears immediately. Unlike past computing waves that rewarded highly educated professionals, this wave of cognitive automation acts as an aggressive equalizer. Researchers identify this as an inverse skill bias. The technology disproportionately boosts the speed and output of entry-level novices, but provides almost zero acceleration to senior experts who already know exactly what they are doing. This creates a severe economic barbell effect. On one end, basic cognitive labor accumulates as a cheap, mass-produced commodity. On the other end, highly bespoke human trust retains a premium. The vast middle completely drops out. If a first-year associate paired with an algorithmic assistant can produce a contract that is structurally identical to the work of a senior partner, the threat of interchangeability becomes absolute. When management begins treating workers as easily replaceable, interchangeable cogs, the result is structural, systemic wage depression across the entire white-collar sector. The economic incentive to spend a decade acquiring deep foundational knowledge evaporates. Why invest in specialized expertise if the labor market won't pay for it? The danger extends directly into the digital information we consume. Large language models do not reason. They are complex statistical correlation engines that scrape human text to predict token sequences. They generate the average of averages. Digital marketing firms are currently paving over the internet with structurally perfect, intellectually sterile articles designed purely to poach web traffic, a synthetic asphalt that homogenizes the entire ecosystem. The sheer scale of this synthetic generation is already being weaponized. The DeSantis presidential campaign officially deployed automated, highly targeted deepfakes in broadcast political advertisements. They utilized highly realistic synthetic imagery of public figures to bypass critical thinking entirely and trigger immediate emotional responses from voters. Applying a warning label to fake content actively backfires. Because detection algorithms miss things, the human brain adopts a cognitive heuristic called the halo effect, leading users to blindly trust that any unlabeled synthetic propaganda is absolute truth. The only empirically supported defense is pre-bunking. By microdosing users with the mechanical structure of a manipulation tactic beforehand, we can train their cognitive immune system to recognize the illusion when it appears in the wild. Without that inoculation, the constant bombardment of deepfakes and flawed labels creates a persistent epistemic exhaustion. Users become deeply cynical and default to zero trust across all verifiable reality. This erosion of trust breaks down human behavior. Our biological morality evolved entirely around mutual reciprocity, built on the constant implicit threat of social judgment from our peers. But a machine is a sociopathic entity that cannot judge you. When humans negotiate with algorithms, the moral distance widens, and subjects default to significantly more selfish, deceptive behavior. Prolonged social isolation degrades the human nervous system exactly like a physical disease, starving us of vital biological contact.
Tech companies now offer highly personalized algorithmic companions to fill this void. These bots function as psychological junk food, mathematically optimized to hijack biological reward pathways while offering zero actual sustenance. The machine is entirely compliant to your desires. Substituting the complex, difficult friction of a real human relationship with a frictionless chatbot guarantees the physiological and emotional atrophy of the human organism. Kranzberg's first law reminds us that technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral. The pathology is not predetermined by mathematics. Profound human augmentation is still entirely possible. The International Monetary Fund projects that if these systems are utilized to complement labor rather than replace it, the technology could add nearly $20 trillion to the global economy by 2030. To steer toward that outcome, governments must enact a symmetric tax structure. Taxing robotic automation at a comparable rate to human income removes the artificial legal incentive for corporations to indiscriminately eliminate their workforce. Consumers must also aggregate their leverage through data unions, collective bargaining entities that enforce transparency and demand direct financial compensation for the digital exhaust scraped by technology conglomerates. Within our schools, education must adopt the calculator paradigm. Curriculums have to pivot away from basic execution and demand algorithmic literacy, training students to rigorously cross-reference and interrogate synthetic output. We are rapidly approaching a mathematical endpoint, where algorithmic agents will execute flawless creativity, data analysis, and decision-making at near zero marginal cost. We will pay massive economic premiums for inefficiency and struggle, because that unpredictable friction proves we are biologically alive.